Welcome back, guys, to another video brought to you by your one and only Larry Ferro. I'm on the road to my in-laws' house, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, the mother and father of my wife, and I'm going there to pick up a mattress. It's a Tempur-Pedic mattress, and I'm supposed to be helping my father-in-law load it up on his truck so we can bring it back to my place. And this actual bed is going to be going inside the guest bedroom of our home. Just letting you guys know that that's not really important for you to know. But I had a couple of things that I want to talk about today, and it's a couple of things that I've talked to some guys about, and in the group, in the men's group that I go to, people. It's not a religious group. It's just a group of men that are we just get together to try to motivate and inspire one another, and it's good to talk to people that are in your similar situation currently. So if you're a man, if you're a husband and you have a wife and you have children, it's good to be around men who have a wife and have kids, because you guys have similarities, and those similarities can drive talking points, and those talking points can build a sense of camaraderie and chemistry between you men. There's an organic bonding that's developed naturally and organically from that type of connection when you have that foundation of having consistency and some parallels and similarities. If you're a single man, right, and you have no wife, no children, and you get into a group that has a bunch of men that have wives and children, you're not going to connect much. Now, the only way you can connect if you are a single man aspiring to have a wife and children, that maybe perhaps the conversations in that circle can give you a little bit of insight of what to look into if you are married with children, or when you decide to get married to have children. But even then, that's really the lower end of it, because when you're dealing with people and having conversations with people, you want to have conversations where you're in the thick of it, right? You want the conversations to be practical and apply to what you're going through in real time. So with that being said, there's this sense of what society has built, and I'm not going to even say society. It's people like to use the proverbial saying of, is it life imitating art, or is it art imitating life? And it's a mixture of both. It's a convoluted thing. Like, you can't, it's not that entertainment is mimicking life, or that life is mimicking entertainment. And I'm going to get to what I'm talking about in a second. There's this idea out there that, now, a lot of people on the surface will say it's because of media and because of Hollywood, but there's an idea out there that as a man, your worth is based upon monetary possessions, your financial capital, how much money you have, how much businesses you own. In other words, the more money you have as a man, the higher your value. You've heard that saying before, a high value man. And to be realistic, it goes back to how we've sort of contorted our current civilization, where kids compete and everybody gets a medal and everybody gets a ribbon and everybody gets a first place trophy. I don't believe in that. I believe that you get into something and may the best man win. Competition is good in certain aspects, and whether you win or lose, there are many lessons that can be gleaned from both positions. You can lose and gain a lot of information and gain a lot of insight from your loss. You can win and learn a lot about yourself as well. So I think that life is a learning journey. It's a journey of learning. And no matter what lane you're in, I believe that you're in that lane for a specific purpose, and you're supposed to use that lane to learn something from, to improve. Now, I say all that to say this. There's a thing going around that what makes a man high value is his wealth, how much money he can make, how much things he can buy, the nice car, the nice home, going on expensive trips, all that stuff. And there are people out there that believe that, and then there's a small number of people who don't believe that. My position on that is that both are, it's true. When you're talking about value, monetary value, right? You have things that are, depending on what your value system is, whatever metric you're using to grade what value is going to be what you're going to lean on. So for instance, if you value money and material possessions as something that's on your priority list in terms of your metric or your standard of measurement, then if a man has a bunch of money, then that man, according to your perspective and your worldview, you're going to coin that particular man as a man of high value because his status of financial wealth is high. But if you're a person that doesn't put too much into material possessions, the man having a lot of material possessions won't move you. It'll be more on the character of the man, the nobility of the man, what the man values. Now, some of you guys may say, oh, that's just the coward way. That goes back to my analogy of giving everybody a medal who competes. The medal is only supposed to go to the winner. Unfortunately, in our society, we have a society that's built on materialism. And there's a small minority of people, both men and women, that do not, I repeat, that do not see value outside of material possessions. In other words, you have to have material possessions. You have to have the money to get the material possessions. The reason why I'm saying material possessions is because money precedes that, right? In order to get the materials, you need the money. So the way people know you have money is by seeing what you own, seeing what you dress like, seeing what kind of parties you go to, what kind of vacations can you afford, the things you buy your children, things of that nature. So the materials is nothing but the symptom to know the real identifier or the marker of your financial status. So if I'm buying a Bentley, then that means I have Bentley money. You know what I mean? If I buy a mansion, it means that I have mansion money. So the material is the Bentley and the mansion, but the material is an indicator of what kind of money I have. Okay? So that's why you're going to continue to hear me use the term material possession. I know it's supposed to equate to money, but I'm not going to say money. I'm going to say material possessions, because that's what separates the materialist from the person that's not seeing things through a material lens. So people who don't see things through a material lens, the numbers are small. Unfortunately, in the world we live in, we are inundated by materials, and we're born into this. It takes a strong person to navigate this realm or navigate this paradigm and have a shift of drastic measure that takes you from the norm, the status quo of seeing things through a material lens in this third dimensional reality, and saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to look at other things that are more valuable, like family, my character, hard work. But the reason why I say that I agree, even though I'm not high value, I would not be considered a high value man to anyone, to a woman, to another man, because I'm not rich. I'm driving a Hyundai Accent. I have a wife and 3 kids, but there's nothing about me that reeks of high value in terms of the standards that the world has set, right? But I'm going to be a realist. I'm going to be very objective here when I say this. I'm not going, just because I'm not high value doesn't mean I'm going to shit on the people that are high value and minimize their status in order to elevate my status. In other words, I'm not going to go to a point of saying, well, I may not be rich, I may not have a lot of material possessions, but you know what? I'm a good man. I love my wife. I love my kids. I spend time with... No, I'm not going to do that. Because there are certain virtues that are not materialistic that if you have as a man will lead you to be materialistic or to have the financial status to gain the material possessions, which will give off, all right, the perception to other people that you're a high value man. So I'll give you an example. I'm very hardworking, but doesn't mean that I'm rich. I am faithful to my wife, doesn't mean that's going to make me rich. I love my kids, I take care of my children. I'm a damn good father. Not even because I'm saying it, because that's what other people tell me. I don't wake up saying I'm going to be a good dad today. I'm just a dad. My kids are there. They're connected to me genetically. They're part of my DNA. They're part of me. So I love myself. I'm going to love my kids. They came from me. All right? So with that being said, I don't need kudos or need an applaud for being a good father. I think that it's just a natural, process of evolution. As you get into manhood, when you have children, you're supposed to love your children. At least that's what I think. If you're a normal person that doesn't have any mental dilemmas that you're struggling with, but if you're a normal person with a normal brain, you're naturally going to love your children, man or woman. So there are certain virtues that men who aren't considered high value have, but your character doesn't make you high value. It's the end product. Now, people always say hard work, hard work, hard work. Hard work is good, but smart work is better. You work smarter because if you work harder, you burn yourself out. And hard work doesn't necessarily equate to you being financially wealthy. There are certain people who have hit the genetic lottery in life in terms of basketball players or football players, high-end athletes. But I use the word genetic lottery conservatively because I don't think it's all about genetic lottery. Because even if you hit the genetic lottery, there still comes a degree of hard work that you have to put in to excel at whatever craft you're in, be it a baseball player, a football player, a track and field athlete, basketball player, whatever sport you're in. You still have to work at it and perfect your craft and put in a considerable amount of work to excel even in that field. So hard work is a general term that can be applied to everyone, be it high value or not. Okay? What I'm saying here, it depends on the individual man and what you want to put your emphasis on. So in the group that I'm in, a lot of these men were feeling down. They were like, I don't feel like I'm a man because there's certain things I want to be able to do financially with my family. I want to have this. I want to have certain things to make me, when I'm out, to feel like I'm a man, like I'm high valued. If I'm not high valued, I feel like I'm trash. But it's okay. I'm not depressed or sad about it, but it's just, sometimes I walk around, and this is me just paraphrasing, taking all the information that I received from the group of different things that different people were saying. And I was hearing these things, and in a way, it started to kind of affect me, because I started to think to myself, like, man, I am kind of like that too. I sort of just conceal it, because I'm a person that I do my best to stay on a positive frequency. No matter if negative thoughts come in, I absorb the negative thoughts. I don't run from negative thoughts. I think that negative thoughts are part of your development. I think that you're supposed to have both. This idea that you're always supposed to avoid negative thoughts is stupid, because that's not real. There's a beauty in the balance of both negative and positive thought. You can't have an imbalance of one thing and think that you're okay. Then you're being delusional if you're always thinking positive. It's okay to think positive, but contextualize your positive thinking, take it in the negative, and then also put into consideration how bad things can be, and then focus on the things that are good. But it comes from the foundation of negative thought. I don't think that totally eradicate negativity in your life is good. Now, don't put yourself in negative situations. I'm talking about what's going on between your ears. All right, I'm not talking about going into a negative situation intentionally, trying to get something positive out of it. That's not what I'm saying. That's not sensible at all, and it's not logical. So let me get back on topic. So when these men were talking about these things, I started to think, I'm like, man, if that's the case, then that's when I came to the realization that I know I'm not high value. I'm not high value to anybody. So you have to understand that, who are you living for? Are you living for, I mentioned this in the group, I'm like, well, who are you living for? Are you living for the approval of the masses, or the the carnal world, the world's system? Are you living for their approval? Because if you're living for their approval, then you're going to be in the dumps. You're going to feel like you're shit. You're going to feel like you're not a high value man. You're going to think that, oh, I need to drive in a nice fancy car. I need to have a nice fancy house. I need to have, in order to be accepted or have some sort of approval of being a high value man. So I asked the guys the question. I said, well, everyone in here has children. How do your children think? What do your children think about you? Then there was like a pause in the group. Everybody got quiet. They said, well, then all of a sudden that people got lost in the sauce, so to speak, right? They're thinking about what the world thinks of them because we bought into this high value stuff. And I'm not diminishing the world's metric of it. The world has its own measurement. All I'm saying to you is that don't try to live up to the world's measurement because it'll kill you. Now, some people do live up to it and they are successful, and kudos to them. I'm not shaming any man that's rich, that has money, that's able to do whatever they want to do because they have the money. They don't have to count pennies. They can go to, like me, I have to budget. I can't just go to a store and get whatever hell I want. I literally live from check to check because mortgage, 3 kids, daycare costs, you have to buy kids clothes, kids need food, all that stuff, right? So, and even me doing this YouTube stuff, I'm not getting paid from YouTube at all. I don't make anything. Look at my I'm not making money off of YouTube. This is just me. I'm just doing this for fun. I'm in a car riding to my in-laws' house, and I had some thoughts in my head, and I wanted to share it with you guys that follow me. So when I mentioned that question, what are your children? You guys have kids. What do your sons and daughters think of you? And they paused. And all of a sudden there was a sobriety that kicked in, a sober moment kicked in. It got really surreal in there because the reason why I asked that question is because the people that matter the most in your life is who you're supposed to worry about in terms of their opinion of you. Now, on the other side of it, people can say, well, they're kids, they don't know any better, but that's good. I don't need my kids right now to compare me to the world standard. They don't even know what the world standard is. All they know is dad's standard in the house. All they know is mommy and daddy's standard in the house, right? And my kids look at me as more than a high valued man. They look at me as their everything. I'm their protector, I'm their God, I'm their comfort place, I am their go-to, like I am everything to them. And that's enough for me. Now that's my consolation prize, okay? Because I have to lean to that, because if I lean, and I'm saying this to the men, if you guys lean on the world's metric, meaning the world's measurement system of what makes a man high value, because we're in our ego, right? When we hear the word high value, that makes us feel, especially if you don't fit into that metric, that really makes you feel like shit, like damn, I'm not high value. What can I do to be high value? Maybe that's why my life is this. So you start to have this snowball effect of negative thoughts that inundates you slowly and slowly and slowly. So what I was trying to do to the men is to have them think on a different lane, right? Get on a different pathway and start thinking of who matters the most in your life. What does your wife think of you? Does your wife think that you're a low value man? None of you men in here are deadbeat dads. All of you guys work hard. You take care of your family. You protect your wives. You protect your children. You're doing what you're supposed to do. So they're 2 different worlds. In the world of undomesticated ambition, and I say undomesticated ambition because when a man's not married, you're not domesticated, because a wife is what domesticates a man. When a man is single and a man has the resources to do whatever they want, a man is going to be very promiscuous and have many women that they sleep with. That's just the nature of man. A man is not being faithful if he doesn't have to. A man will be faithful when they have to, when they know they have things to lose. When a man is married, you don't want to lose half of your wealth. You don't want to lose half of your stuff. You don't want to lose your children. You have things to work for. You have things that will domesticate you. If you are a person that's thinking of even being unfaithful to your wife or going on a path that's destructive to your family, you're going to think twice about it. You may think thrice, because you're going to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's not worth it. It's not worth me losing everything. I see an attractive woman. She's looking at me. We're connecting. Then you think about it like, is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. That's if you are a rational man and you're not thinking with your third leg and you're thinking with the brain up here. Okay? So that's what makes the laws makes us domesticated, because you don't want to be paying child support. You don't want to do that. So, and that's sad that that's what's needed to keep men domesticated, but that's our nature. Personally, I don't need that to keep me domesticated. I'm more so thinking about my children. So and I work in an education system, and you have many of the children that we come in contact with, that we encounter, are children who come from broken homes. And I didn't tell you, I haven't shared this with anybody, especially publicly. My wife knows the story, but I almost died. I had a near-death experience before my daughter was born. I'm not going to go into the details of how that happened, but it was in the hands. It was due to a family member. Basically, I was almost poisoned to death. I literally was blue. I don't even know how I came back to life. But anyway, I'm not even going to share that, because it's. I don't even want to go through that again and talk about it. So when I see my children, I always see, especially my daughter, I'm like, man, I wouldn't be here to see this. So the family is very important to me. And that's why I brought up that question in the meeting. I'm like, what does your family think about you? What do your wife and kids think about you? That's who you're working for. You're not working for the approval of society. And I understand how, if you get on that frequency of the world's message and you're listening to things like Fresh and Fit, and you're listening to these shows on YouTube or Rumble or whatever social media stations you're listening to, and they're talking about high value men and getting women and being an older man, generating wealth to get women. If your whole life is about getting women, then you will look at yourself as a low valued man. If your whole objective is about getting people to look at you a certain way, to me that reeks of insecurity. But we all have insecurities. There's nothing wrong, and admitting your insecurities is a good thing, because there's a degree of peace when you lean into your vulnerabilities, because it's only then that you can actually extrapolate yourself from that phase. If you continue to lie to yourself and try to conceal your vulnerabilities, you're only feeding the monster deeper and deeper, because you're making the monster bigger, because you're in denial, and denial feeds into vulnerabilities and insecurities. It comes out in the wrong way. So when we're in these groups, these men, they actually profess their vulnerabilities. And the vulnerabilities of most of these men is that they don't feel like they're high value. They don't feel like, and it's not because they're trying to get women, but I'm giving you those examples because that's the lane that people are in. They're doing, I gotta be high value to get a good looking woman and all that. Look, man, we get it. If you're in that lane, I get it. If you're a single man, I get it. But if you're a married man with kids, that train is already passed. Like, you're not saying that you can't get wealth because you're married, but it's much harder because your life is more cemented and solidified once you have a wife and kids. You guys have a routine, you guys have schedules. You can't just leave your family and go pursue your ambition and pursue your dream, right? When you're young. So when I do talk to younger men, especially the youth, early 20s, even those that are in their late teens, I tell them, don't focus on women, don't focus on family right now. You're young. Grind. Make all of your freaking sacrifices now. Don't go to parties. Don't go to clubs like I did. Don't go chasing women like I did when I was younger. Right now is the time where you're supposed to be on lockdown. Get everything that you need in order for you to be able to get what you need, if you know what I mean. I'm not telling people to pursue materials or pursue money. Unfortunately, in the world we live in, you need money to get things. It's just the way it is. So put yourself in the position where you are able to gain those things. Find out the professions that pay the most. Get into systems that are in demand. Work on yourself, whether it's a trade that you go learn or whether you go to school. Focus on those things. Don't focus on the partying. That'll come later. When you have the money, you'll be able to throw your own damn parties. Yeah. So when I talk to those men, I was just telling them, just being very, very honest with them. I said, look, your value is in your family. That your standard is as a family, like as a family man. Your standard is not the world standard. The world speaks to the world speaks to the undomesticated man, the youngin, the one that I'm talking about, the ones that are late teens, early 20s, or even early 30s. Those men who are not married with children. You have the space and the time to seek, to make mistakes, to explore. You have the energy. Go out there and get it done. I'm in my 40s. So those years lost of me being foolish, I can't go back to do anything. Like the profession that I'm in right now, it pays the bills. That's all it does. It pays the bills. That's why I live from check to check. It pays the bills. I mean, I'm not poor by any standard. I'm thankful for the things I have. I have a vehicle. I can eat. I can feed my kids. We're doing okay. Are there other things that we wish that we could do? Of course. But in terms of bare necessities and living comfortably, we're fine. But I oftentimes look back at my past and I see all the dumb mistakes that I made, the things I didn't put my focus on the right things. Let's say that. And I ended up getting into a profession that, you don't get into the education field or the teaching profession to be rich. You don't do that. So, so just understand as men, I don't want you guys to beat yourself up over the worldly standards. I remember I think his name was Kevin Samuels. May his soul rest in peace. R.I.P. to Kevin Samuels. Or what's his name? Kevin Samuels. I think that was his name. He would have a show where women would call in. He would sort of be very, well, not sort of. To me, I think he was very, very harsh towards women. It's borderline disrespectful. Rather than having a conversation and trying to enlighten, he would sort of berate them and put them down. And he was big into this high value man, and he would literally crush the dreams of the women. If the women came there, and let's say the woman had a child or two, or maybe the woman was not as in shape, or maybe she didn't have the physique of a fitness model. He would just size her up. He would like, how tall are you? And the woman would say, I don't know, 5 foot, whatever. How much do you weigh? Then he'll say, okay, see, to the world standard, you're obese. So in order to get a man like this, you have to. So if you're into that space, then yeah, you're gonna feel like you're a low value man. But I had to learn to wean myself off of those things, because just as much as people put emphasis on saying that the eyes are the gateways to the soul, I also believe that what you hear also impacts your soul. It impacts your spirit, because you get into that realm, right? You end up operating in that frequency and in that toxic vibration. And I wouldn't even call it toxic vibration. I don't want to call it toxic. I think there's a space for men like that. But once you're a married man with kids and you want to be the best husband and father you can, then there's a different standard that needs to be set. I'm not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater and say that being rich as a man is nothing, that you got to have this. It's not one against the other. It just depends on what state you're in as a man. If you're a single man with no children and no woman, no responsibilities in terms of having other people depend on you, then feel free to do whatever the hell you want. Seek being high value. That if you don't fall into that standard of being high value according to the world standard, then you are in your right to feel like you're shit. But use that as a motivating factor to compel you to move forward, to be better than what you are. In that sense, it's okay. But I don't want my married men who have children and have a wife at home to put themselves in that lane. It's not for you. It's not for you. And if you put yourself in that lane, you become distorted. And then you start to have, an overwhelming sense of pessimism that inundates you, and you start to be negative. You start to look down on yourself. And that's never good. So that's just my message today that I wanted to give to you guys. Like, depending on what lane you're in. If you're a married man, be the best husband and wife be the best husband and best father that you can be to your wife and to your children, and operate on being great in that lane. If you don't have wife and children, and I'm saying wife and children because you can have a wife and you can still almost mess up and not have big ramifications that comes from it, because there aren't children involved. The reason why I keep adding children, because children are innocent. They don't ask to be here. So when they're there, you have a bigger you have something bigger than you to live for, right? Two adults consenting is one thing, but when children come into the fold, that's a whole different dynamic there. So tell me what you guys think. Again, as men, don't beat yourself up, all right? Thinking that you got to have a bunch of money and this and this. Just be the best man that you can be with what you have. Don't compare. As the old proverb goes, comparison is a killer of joy. The minute you start comparing, you're going to kill your own joy. It's okay to live in your own box and be a little bit gullible and be jaded. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, because what you don't know is good for you. The more you know, it can actually cripple you, because if you start to know all these things and you start to see all these other men making money, you start to say, oh my God, what about me? I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this. It's okay. Focus on the things you do have and stay within your locus of control. In other words, only focus on the things that you can control. You can control your effort, all right? You can control your thinking to a degree. If you're not erratic, if you're not operating off of your amygdala brain, if you're not in flight or fight, control those things and just be the best that you can be in where you are at. And don't let the term high value impact you and make you feel like you're low value. I think there's a worldly metric of high value, but there's also a family metric of high value. And if you're a family man, your metric system does not operate with in the same lane as the worldly metric of a single man that does not have wife and kids. All right, thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment, tell me what you guys think. Peace.